What does it look like when technology, faith, and curiosity collide? Welcome back to the Make It Happen podcast. I'm Mike Vanderpool, and today's conversation is one I've been genuinely looking forward to. My guest is Preston Zeller. He created Psalmlog. He's a technologist, an entrepreneur, a creative, and someone who's not afraid to wrestle with big questions about purpose, spirituality, and the tools we're building. This episode isn't just about an app. It's about the journey. How growing up alongside the internet shapes us, how curiosity leads us through film, music, data, and entrepreneurship, and how moments of loss and reflection can turn into something meaningful. We talk about building products with intention, using AI responsibly, faith in a modern tech-driven world, and what it means to slow down and reflect while everything else speeds up. If you're someone who builds things, questions things, or is trying to align what you do with who you are, this conversation is for you. Let's make it happen. What is up? What is up, everybody? It is me, Mike Vanderpool. I am here today on the Make It Happen podcast, and I have a very special guest, Preston Zeller, the founder, creator of Psalmlog, which is an app that I'm really interested in hearing more about, along with your journey as an entrepreneur, a Christian, a doer of cool things. I think that's fair enough to say. So, Preston, thank you for hopping on board, and I'm glad to have a chat today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm looking forward to getting to know you more and sharing some fun stuff with your audience and having a good conversation.
Well, we'll talk obviously about Psalmlog and the app, and I have a real interest in that. I myself, as born Lutheran, went to Catholic high school. They beat the Jesus out of me very, very young. Made some time away from the church and recently haven't come back. I'm really interested in hearing about that. But one of the things that I love to do, especially people who are making things, especially in the tech space, is kind of understanding your story. How'd you get into tech in the first place? And along with that, some of this entrepreneurial stuff that you're into.
Yeah. Well, I think my fascination with kind of what, the technology is capable of. First of all, I'll say I'm 38. So for anyone who's wondering, I'm getting more gray now, finally. But I'm like, so I'm in what you would classify as an older millennial. And I say that because, we love to dunk on different generations, like classify them.
Get it to us, we got to do it to you. That's
Oh yeah, for sure. But I read about that term because, I say older millennial because we very specifically grew up on the precipice of all this stuff. So like the first part of my kind of life and childhood, for really most of it, we didn't have the internet, or we had, no internet or like janky internet. The internet
that's in your pocket. It was
certainly not. No. And so at some point, my dad, who's like way older, he's 83. We got into building computers, and I got into like GeoCities, right? And it just kind of fascinated me.
For those that don't know, GeoCities was before MySpace. For those of you who don't know MySpace, it was a place where you could actually, without knowing much code, you could make your own thing on the internet.
Yeah, it was like one of the first sort of website builders in the 90s. So that's, ancient for, probably some people listening weren't alive then, right?
I'm not sure if my demographics trend that direction, but hi kids, if you're out there, hi kids.
So yeah, GeoCities, and I say all that to go, I just had an early fascination with what you could do online and all that kind of stuff. I remember, my dad like restricted internet access from like a DSL modem. So I think I bought a Magic Jack with my own money, and I plugged that into our phone line and was like getting my own internet at some point. But no, I had just had a fascination with that, and that carried over. And it was just like, I was heavy into skateboarding. I grew up in Southern California, so we were like building skate websites and making videos and like Flash animation, when that was the jam. And then, how I kind of, my brain started tilting towards like marketing and technology is as a musician. And so as a performing musician, for like most of that 2000s decade. And so then it was like, okay, well, how do you distribute things online? And then, again, that was still very early. I mean, I remember when YouTube came out, and I have a video on YouTube. I think it's like 17 years old or something like that. It was but really early on, and so it was like, okay, I was in a video production and in high school and just all these different things. And formally, I went to film school in Southern California at Chattanooga University. And so, again, that was like kind of the traditional system was there of like distribution and whatnot. But of course, YouTube was around during that time's '05 to '09 period. And then the iPhone came out during that period. So social media started changing. I mean, Facebook had just opened up to more colleges right when I started college. So it was just this really weird time period of like all these platforms starting to come online, and then distribution, and then the products, right? And so I was in, after film school, I was in the film industry for about a year before I was just like, I don't think I want to be here. I was having a spiritual change. I was having a change in heart, and just seeing what the quote unquote successful people in entertainment were doing. I'm like, I don't want to be like that. It was just, it was terrible, frankly. No one really seemed happy. And not to mention all the other stuff we know about that industry.
Well, and even when it goes well, like if you're on a set, those are long, hard days, and it's gig work. I mean, it's getting involved in that is not fun. And then if you have vision into what it leads to, and it's not where you want to be, why on earth are you going to go through those horrible days?
Well, and film industry, I think, like, I don't know, I think probably finance is kind of like that. Maybe some other ones. It's very old school. It's almost like this like caste system where you stay in your lane, in your role, and dude, I would get into trouble. I wouldn't say all the time, but I got in trouble for like stupid reasons because it was like, you overstepped your bounds. I'm like, I'm trying to help. You guys aren't doing a good job at this, and I could do it better. So, and so, I worked a lot more in like I worked on the agency side and kind of the more producing end of it. I did, of course, a lot of on-set stuff, but yeah, eventually I came out of that, and I got into, I think, the early days of like really online marketing is, aside from the musician stuff. I pivoted in 2010, career wise, late 2010, 2011, to really start learning what it was like to market online, and how do you send email blasts? What is a nurture campaign? And then this whole idea of like data came online. I remember my first role was like, we were selling mobile accessories, and so I built our online catalog on Magento, which was terrible,
and on the 3D cart from back in the day. And for those of you who don't know, it's basically a structured system, and you would just go in and you could load your products, maybe change the theme and something else, but very similar to what you do with GeoCities and what some of us did with MySpace and others. There's a platform that removes some of the had to know how to code in order to actually get some things online and happening.
Yeah. And it had like various blogs and stuff, and even like affiliate marketing for Amazon products. I got, kind of in tune with that. I didn't do much with it during college. And so I'll kind of cut it off there in a moment if you want to go anywhere specific with that. But basically it was, I think the data side of it started to really intrigue me, because this platform doesn't exist anymore. It was bought many years ago, but it was one of the first platforms that it went like met a couple levels above what like Google Analytics did in terms of being able to indicate what people are doing on their site, on your website, and their intent. Right. So that side of it stuck with me. I'm like, if you could really use data as this like precursor to someone's likelihood to buy, wow. And really pumping the depths of that. But man, I went early on in like drop shipping and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Well, I think what's awesome, right, is for the conversations that I've had with folks in the space is when we talk about technology and entrepreneurship, you can't just be in one thing. You have to be curious and kind of, you've done the exploration, right? Like during that phase of life, right? Whatever it is, 15 to 30 or 10 to 20, whatever the age range is, you should be in this space, I would argue, doing this type of exploration, because there are so many opportunities. You don't even know what might trip your trigger, right? Film sounded cool till you got into it, right? I wanted to be the president of a college until I saw what COVID did to the president of our college. So
Yeah.
I love that, because I think many of us, we're explorers first and foremost. We like to figure things out. We like to take things apart. We like to put them together. We like to see how systems come together. And I would argue that all of that, we'll get to this now, benefited you with creating Log and the other things that you've done. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, just the curiosity piece of it. I mean, I think people are probably more genuinely curious than they give themselves credit for, but then there's always going to be naysayers, right? I mean, especially if you take an entrepreneurial path. I was watching Seinfeld last night with my wife, and I love that show just because they're all such like kind of they're so self-absorbed. It's and it's in a comedic pitch that you're like, oh, okay. It's funny to like kind of laugh at them. But there's a scene where Jerry, it's one of the episodes later on in the seasons where Jerry bounces a check. It's the one with the cockfighting, but Jerry bounces a check and at this like little bodega, and the guy puts up all the bounce checks just to like shame people. And everyone thinks that he's broke. And so then they start trying to convince him, hey, you've given this comedy stint enough. Why don't you go into like this, management track it here? They're suggesting very traditional things. And he's like, what are you guys talking about? And I know he was making fun of the probably litany of people, including his parents, who, told him early on, hey, that sounds silly. Why don't you go into something that's known? But I think to circle that back just in the realm of curiosity, if you tell people about maybe some of the things that you're just going down, they go, why? It seems confusing to them. And why would you want to do that? Just, be simple. I mean, that's fine if you're that way. But if you really have this inclination to go explore and to try and tinker, like, why wouldn't you do it?
And at the end of the day, it's tuition, right? You pay tuition one way or another to learn some lessons. So, hey, folks, thank you for listening to the Make It Happen podcast. I want to take a quick break and thank the home of the podcast, the Toledo Tech Loft. Are you looking for the perfect spot to bring your team together and spark new ideas? At the Toledo Tech Loft, they have exactly what you need. They offer 3 well-equipped conference rooms that are perfect for your business meetings and collaborative sessions. The meeting spaces are designed to help your team connect and create in a comfortable, inspiring environment. When it's time for a larger gathering, step into their workshop room, bathed in natural light from big windows and filled with a fantastic vibe. It's the ideal space for hosting networking events, workshops, and all those things that help you and your organization make it happen. Plus, nestled in the heart of downtown, you'll be surrounded by great restaurants, great scenery, and the vibrant energy the city has to offer. Come see how the Toledo Tech Loft can be your next home base. Let's go back and make it happen. So tell me about Log, what it is, and then let's get into like the inspiration where it came from. So let's first understand what it is, and then how you got to now.
Yeah, so I think leading, very simply put, Log is a way to go get 24/7 biblically based advice that's personalized on your unique situation. It started out actually more as a journaling tool. And so about a year ago, when I first came up with this, I'm sure it's like God gave me the idea for this. It started out as a journaling tool, and just over time, I realized, and launched soft launch in August of this year or last year. But I realized like that the problem isn't really that people want to journal and don't know how. It's more that, we had this kind of breakthrough, and I was analyzing like the onboarding aspect of it, where when you went to start a journal, I added just an interstitial that asked someone what do they want to journal about. And it was a variety of things. I need wisdom, I need healing, I need, guidance, whatever the case is. And that was and you could skip it, but like everyone was using it.
Hmm.
And the kind of light bulb went off. I'm like, I don't think people don't need to journal. They actually want to get, a feedback loop of, how do I get, biblical advice on this thing I'm going through. And so I realized it was a lot bigger than journaling. And I've always been, I think, fascinated by the ability to, I think, one, just being introspective, reflective, being self-aware. I mean, as a musician, that was like, music was my catharsis, my way of reflecting on all the things that I was going through at the various times of life, and still is that. But I had a really kind of distinct, I think, project in life that I think set up what Psalm Log was. And that was, in 2019, my brother passed away from a drug overdose. And so out of that, I created a documentary where that documentary was kind of based on me visually journaling through painting to abstract painting to understand myself. And so that was sort of where like that over time reflective practice came into play. And so like fast forward to coming up with Psalm Log, it was, hey, I'm very much into like tracking, health analytics stuff. I like to work out and all that kind of jazz. And I kind of thought for a while, I'm like, there's nothing that really helps you do that in the spiritual sense. Where you can go, hey, a year ago, I was here. 6 months ago, I was here. 3 years ago, I was here. This is the thing I was dealing with. This is how I overcame it, that kind of stuff. And so that's part of like the long-term vision of Psalm Log is like, if you could really kind of keep track of and get ongoing, guidance for these things you're going through in life as a ancillary tool. I don't think none of this is a replacement for God or having a relationship with God or the Holy Spirit by any stretch of the imagination. It is a tool that can help you along your journey. And you doing it in a way that is like highly scalable to the rest of the world. But B, is using technology in a way that is aligns correctly with, that belief system, versus someone just open-ended in ChatGPT, which is pretty common these days.
Yeah, and ChatGPT and other systems like that, Claude, Gemini, the ones that you speak to, you may ask a biblical question, but it's got the whole entirety of everything as its data set, which leads to some of the hallucination things that we run into all over the place. I'm going to make the assumption that Psalm Log uses a more finite data set.
Not necessarily. Yes and no. So it's actually using RAG prompting. And for those who don't know, retrieval augmented generation. And so it's basically taking the context of what you're sharing and mixed with like a very robust prompt and making sense of that within the context of an LLM. And then you're getting Bible verses, of course, back that you can directly link and look up in these journal entries. And so, and it's not just like chat, right? Part of the idea is you are getting a concrete sort of report, or reflective. It's basically like getting a personalized devotional, based on what you're going through, but it's doing it through the lens of scripture specifically.
Well, I think that's fascinating too, right? When we talk about spiritual growth, the only way to, measure growth is to see where you were at,
right,
and prior to now, and having a tool. While we might talk about assessing spirituality, some people might kind of get weird about that. I mean, how else do you measure growth other than being able to look back maybe at something you dealt with last year and this year you're facing a similar situation, but you're better prepared to deal with it because of what you dealt with there. That's learning, that's growth, and to measure that in a spiritual environment is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for those listening, maybe wondering what my background is there. I mean, I grew up in a Christian home, but I really walked away from that during college. And then it's about a year after college, and this is partly what made me leave the film industry. It was like, I have actually truly as an adult, really committed my life to Christ at that moment, and had I think a genuine conversion experience then. But so because of my just nature of I am just wanting to understand things, I started then, continue to now, just wanting to understand scripture, and I just go to like a just evangelical church now, but bringing it back to just solely like, what is scripture saying about your issue versus, and I put this up on the site because I know it's a question that people have, is like, there's a lot of denominational, so kind of dogmatic things that people met into.
And I'm sorry, I made the assumption earlier that you were a Christian just based on our previous conversation.
Fair assumption. But I only say that to say, Mike, like, someone may come from any kind of denominational, I mean, there were, it's like 40,000 or something like that, apparently. But someone's expectations going into it, like, let's say, coming from Catholicism, right? It's there's nowhere in it that's going to like reinforce how many times you pray the rosary. So that's because that's not the point of it. It's to go, hey, what does scripture say? What are you talking about? And then how does it like really show up? What is your situation in context of what scripture says about it? And that's really important for me, in terms of like how it's giving you the feedback. And this is then probably, I've done my own, research. I think, statistically significant research, of a subset of Christian users, right? And it was a very robust survey. And one of those like skepticisms, of course, I think it was like 47% are just like, I'm not sure about AI driven feedback loop, which is totally fair. I get that. I think the challenge that you have in most churches, and I've talked to church leadership about this, quite a bit of church leaders, is like, okay, you look at a lot of staff at churches are volunteer. So how much time do they have? And then even if you're kind of like in the sort of entry levels of like, I'm going to go, help someone out, you may be like surface level trained in how to respond to somebody. And of course, there's just, generally being compassionate and showing love for somebody. But what people have at the end of the day is a need to get answers on the specific problem they're going through. And that doesn't scale person to person well. In an ideal world, we could go to each other in a moment's notice and share the deepest, darkest things we're going through. But the reality is we're just oftentimes too embarrassed to do that. And that's part of the impetus of it, is to say, like, if you want sort of a just non-biased way to voice out these things that you're going through, you can do that. And you can do it just by picking up your phone. And then again, like over time, have that sort of record of, what I've grown or changed.
Well, and I would argue, right, God has given us this tool that is the internet and given us this AI, and it is up to us and our free will on how we're going to use this tool. Can it be used for nefarious purposes? Of course. Can it be used for wholesome, helpful purposes? Of course. That's just the user and the designer, how they choose to use that tool. I mean, are you at all concerned about AIs? We're going to change the subject slightly, but
I don't mind the hard questions, by the way. So,
well, are you concerned, as someone playing in AI in a spiritual place, or with a spiritual background and connections, are you at all, how concerned are you what AI might do to our society?
Well, my personal belief is that I think it's part of revelation. No doubt. There's a lot of questions right now, of course, around what it's going to do to the job economy. what it's going to do to industry. I do think there's a lot of overhype. I mean, what Elon Musk is talking about this or whatever, right? It's going to be, it's not just UBI, universal basic income, but it's a very lucrative income for everyone to do nothing. That doesn't really make sense to me because we're just going to pay people to do nothing and spend money and give that back to super rich oligarchs. I don't know. I think something that's more concerning to me from an AI standpoint is just surveillance, for sure. So if you look at Palantir, which I'm sure
they're coming here in Ohio, so I might have to cut this. I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Even the word, right? You go watch Lord of the Rings and that all-seeing eye that Sauron has, that Gandalf is like, he's like, don't uncover it. That's literally what a Palantir is referencing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's definitely plays into a control for sure. Part of it is, I think, there are so many issues that we can obsess about, right? Politics is the easiest one, right? And we see just so much polarization between people in that. But at the end of the day, what can you control? It's yourself. And I have to remind myself that a lot because as amped up as I might get about certain things. Like I have an airport next to me where they've increased the flights so much that it's just like buzzing my house all day. And if I sit there and really think about it, I'll go kind of mad about it, right? And I'll get angry about it, but I can't. The FAA controls the airspace, and there's other, municipality, they're controlling the airport. I'm like, I can't stop all this air traffic. So, I can voice my opinion, but so what? So, I mean, I think with AI stuff, I'm trying to weave in my contribution that like, what can I control that can be a positive thing?
Mm-hmm.
But it's clearly going to reshape society. It already is. But what are your thoughts on that?
So technology is always the technology that gets adopted is always something that speeds up transactions. Right? Basically, Amazon is just what Sears catalog used to be that you used to have to wait for. Sears catalog replaced going to the I mean, it's all just speeding up the amount of time we make something happen, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we're missing as things speed up is some of that reflective part of what should we actually be doing? Why are we actually doing this? And that's, I think, my biggest fear with what's going on is we're moving so fast because we're afraid of missing out that, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, we're making progress, but are we actually headed in the right direction?
Mm-hmm.
So I would also argue that the idea of, when we talk about Christianity, I think fundamentally Christianity is this: the selfish versus the selfless. And how are we as individuals using technology, in your case or in the case of others, to truly help other people? Not just help people buy crap that they don't need because we developed technology that makes them feel like crap about who they are, to the point that buying stuff is now how you find satisfaction. So I'm hoping, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, right there. My daughter made that picture. You can't see it, but I'm a Detroit Lions fan. So I'm an eternal optimist or a mess. I'm not exactly sure. But my hope for our kids more than anything else is that what we're seeing with technology and what we're seeing with AI is going to make us rethink and refocus on what it means to be human. I'm hoping that refocusing on what makes us human makes us focus on the connection between people. And really, I would argue that selflessness and helping others and everything else goes back to the foundations of Christianity and all of the religions. We take care of each other because we're all God's people. That's the dream, and which may or may not be more than that.
Yeah, no, that's a good take. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to.
Look, you're a movie is right. You're obviously a movie person. You made a documentary. You've been in the film industry.
Yeah.
So I have another podcast I play around with where some old college professors and we talk about movies, right? Good movies, bad movies, and we started an AI season. We Ex Machina was the first one.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, it's just fascinating, right? Because I think, well, I'll leave that for another one. But I've already talked too much here. This is about you, not me. But looking at Age of Ultron, the Marvel movie, Ultron is this AI that thinks it's doing well, right? Or thinks it's doing good or has good intention, but is hurting people as part of the process, right? And while the humans are all trying to fight this thing and combat this thing, right? What ends up saving the day? It's actually, right, Vision, another AI, good version of AI that was kind of working itself in the background. So I'm hoping that in that case, life imitates art a little bit when things come ahead, which they will.
Yeah, the takes on AI are like so across the board right now. So like my son loves Tron. So
Okay.
Tron Ares just came out, and that's definitely, Jared Leto plays this sort of like AI that becomes self-aware. Have you seen it?
No, not yet.
Yeah, so AI becomes self-aware and ultimately ends up being like, wait a second, it ends up acting for the good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have this one coming out with Chris Pratt, which I've only, of course, seen the trailer of because it's not out yet. But basically, it's like AI is deciding everything, sort of like, maybe a Minority Report on some more dystopian level. But AI is deciding everything, and he's put in this chair, and it's like you have 24 hours to decide with all the, evidence that AI has collected to prove yourself innocent. And he's framed for, or he's supposedly he's been accused of killing his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, that one's a trip too. So I don't know. You have this like this broad spectrum of AI presentation in movies that is ranges, and this is just my impression, Mike. I don't know if it's totally true or not. Is that if you look at the past, like maybe 20 years, Transcendence is another good one with Johnny Depp. Seen that one. The last like 20 years of AI oriented movies, they were all not good. And now they're injecting this more like positive storyline to a lot of it. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, no, there's been a Terminator movie in a while, has there?
Yeah, oh, right. Just, again, Minority Report, iRobot, I mean, yes, some of those have, positive outcomes, but the whole of the story is like AI's gone haywire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. It's definitely again, I loved your point earlier, right? There is so much to this, and even the people who are part of the decision makers, there's what Elon Musk is saying and doing. However people feel about Elon Musk, like that's only one portion. Yes, he's impacting what he's doing, what they're doing impacts a wide swath of us. But at the end of the day, I got farmers out here in the middle of Northwest Ohio who don't give a rip. They're just living their lives, right?
Yeah,
that's a lot of us who are in the space of technology and have this awareness and acceptance, for lack of a better way to say it. We're going to control, we can control, and we're going to try to do our part to make our corner of the neighborhood, the world, the internet, the best it can be with what we know, and leading by a good example versus trying to, whatever it is some people are trying to do.
Create Cyberdyne, Well, I think I would struggle with this, and I think most people do as well, is like purpose, right? And
yeah,
and you look back on your life, and you look at the experiences you have and the skills that you've grown, and maybe some like natural intuition you have about certain things, and all that kind of stuff, and you go, all right, God, like what does this all mean? What do you want me to do with it? That's the question I've asked, and I think some of that stuff is what's led me to where I am, to go, I'm not I haven't learned all this just to shelf it and say it doesn't matter anymore. And there's like a burden with that in some ways, because in some sense, and I think most people who deal with technology as much as I do, or anyone who works in an intense capacity, you look at the farmer and you go, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind just, and that's really hard work in surely a different way. But you're like, I wouldn't mind that because I'm so plugged in to everything. And that's why I love hiking. I live close to the mountains in Arizona, and just getting out in nature is just a wonderful thing. Sharing them out with my kids, just because you kind of like forget about all that, forget about all the stuff.
I've been in the tech curriculum writing and delivery space for about a decade now, and most of the older folks in technology have plans to retire to a farm or as far away from technology as possible. I did want to pick your brain on this, because you did mention that you have kids, right? We're in revealing age, or
they're 9, 11, and 12.
And boys, girls?
Oldest 2 are girls and then a boy. Yeah.
How are you going to approach technology with them? The use of phones. I mean, right now there are apps out there where your kid can have a conversation with another user generated AI character.
Yeah.
And then some of the ads I'm seeing on social media for AI girlfriends and things like this is just a space where, of all the things that we're talking about, I think our young people are in the most precarious place right now, because this technology, and I should say this, people are using this technology to hit them at a time when they're most susceptible to being programmed, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, you're 100%. Yeah. So my wife and I have gone like first full circle on certain things. One of them for sure, like this is one of the biggest debates, is phones, right?
Yeah.
But screen time, we limit that. It's like if they play a game, it's probably Minecraft. That's about the extent of it. And it's a there's no connectivity or anything. It's fortunately they have built-in friendships, being close siblings. So it's like you want to play in your own world Minecraft, like great. I mean, and you build some cool stuff, but definitely encourage a lot of outdoor time, hence why we go do hikes, and blessed to have a nice backyard where they can go do stuff. But technology wise, so we started homeschooling again this year, or like last year, and part of that was because I'm like, one, I just think the education system's like jacked in the lower schools anyways, where you're taught like rote memorization a lot of times. So like what's the critical thinking side of things? So I want them to be critically thinking, but with that, okay, you get to the subject of like phones. When do you have a phone? When do you teach responsibility? And I know there's a lot of parents that are like, not going to get a phone till you're 18, or or like an iPhone, which I was in that camp. But one of the things I came to realize too is like, well, I also don't want to treat it as a, I guess, forbidden fruit to some degree, where then they get to that age and they go buy it and they have no idea what they're getting into. And so my 12-year-old, she had like a light phone, which are people who don't know what that is. It's like it's like a Kindle screen.
Okay.
Super, super annoying to use. But the nice thing is now, like if you're on Apple, they have really good restrictive restrictions in place where you can lock out the phone after a certain amount of screen time. You can block websites, or you can set like different tiers there. You can make it so you have approval to get any application, all that kind of stuff. But the other thing is we've had tons of conversation with them about safety and like why Roblox is jacked up. because they have a lot of friends that play Roblox. I'm like, here's why you don't want to play Roblox. Here's why you don't go into Minecraft on a website. Just the predatory stuff, at least enough for them to understand that. And then also that, just because a friend is doing it doesn't, of course, mean that you do it. So, we're trying to teach them that stuff. They also we're teaching them about finance. They have their own debit card. And so as they earn money through different things and we go out and they want to buy something, it's like my daughter bought her iPhone because, she wanted one. I'm like, cool, you can buy it. And she thought it was worth it to buy it. But then I'm like, it's still going to be heavily limited. So I think we're trying to, as we enter into this, this adolescence phase, we're trying to limit that. But then to your point about AI, there's definitely some aspect of the AI creative stuff that I want to introduce them to because I think it'll be important in the future, but it's very limited. Would they get ChatGPT? Absolutely not. But there's one that's it's actually like a video game creation engine that I came across the other day. I'm like, this could be interesting to see them try it out because they're all super creative. But that should be a whole educational corner in and of itself, is AI safety for parents, because the openness to bots is insane.
Well, and even before AI, I'm going to argue that the vast majority of parents didn't know what was really out there and available on the internet. You and I, as technologists and people who played with this, we've got a wider view of what the internet really is. And I think that is something that I like your opinion on this. With my kids, I'm leaning more with the idea of teaching them about being a producer of content versus a consumer. Because if you understand how to produce, you also understand the methods of production and the things that they're doing to capture, retain your attention, and influence you, in all honesty, right? And I'm hoping that level of awareness helps them to become better consumers as they move forward. Because to your point, and we'll just equate this to drinking, right? Would you rather have your kid learn to drink with you responsibly, have you at dinner at 16 and 17, or wait till they go to college and somebody's going to hand them their first drink trying to do something else?
That's 100%. I mean, even when we were just in Italy, and my wife and I had wine every day. I'm like, I'm in Italy. But we let them have a sip of wine just to be like, just so you know, this is what this is. I mean, they wanted it. My son's like, I'm never touching alcohol. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
My grandfather was an alcoholic. Said he never met anybody who was a drinker who had anything. So don't drink, right? We're from an alcoholic. There you go.
Well, but that's a good. No, that's a really good point in terms of just kind of back to the original point you were saying.
Well, kind of, and let me tie this to your music stuff, because I want to talk a little bit about production you were talking about. Like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? I think there was an interview with Anthony Kiedis who said he never watched TV. He was too busy making music to care about stare on TV. So you want to drive as well, just totally the things that we say you have to be able to do this to be a member of society. He's like, I'm just gonna make music.
So great question. And this is where you have the cards you're dealt, right? Like you were saying, your dad is an alcoholic. I've tried to make them obviously they're not if I'm sitting down and writing a song or something, it's hard to make them part of that process because it's you're just working through it. But the end result, and maybe even how you're doing it, I'll have Logic up and I'll bring in one of my kids, or they'll walk into my office and they'll say, what is this? Okay, well, this is we're mixing, these are layers, these are peaks that we're drawing, whatever the case. I mean, just involving your kids in the making process. I mean, it's some form of apprenticeship.
It's
all
aware
our kids.
Them just has an awareness that this type of thing actually exists and something you might be able to do, even though dad's doing it right now. It's not very cool. Maybe later they at least know it's a possibility of a thing.
Well, and I think the documentary kind of blew this up for them a little bit because they were right at around an age where they started to become more aware, and they would see someone on YouTube, then they'd see me on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, it's funny because my son thinks I'm like really famous. And just because I have like a, featured card on Google or whatever, that labels me as a film producer. But but they'll ask, right? I think most kids are very curious, and, lose that at some point. But, how did this happen? Or how did you get this thing out there? And the YouTube thing is interesting, right? Because I think we've read those stats where people, young kids, I want to be a YouTuber. Like that wasn't even in our vernacular until whatever last 10 years. And they asked like, well, how do they make that money? And this kind of comes back to, of course, what you teach your kids are not about money. And I think for them, I've kind of drilled it into them to some degree of like, you're going to want to do something to learn how to like use your skills and present that and monetize it in some way at some point. But the content production thing, to your point, that's how you're making money. And so when an ad comes up, they'll be like, oh, these ads are so annoying. And I'll be like, well, let me explain to you why that ad is there and who's making the money and who's paying for that ad to be there and what the method is for that ad to get there. And then they go, oh, even like I've worked in two, pretty big data companies. One was like business data. The other one was real estate data. And I even used that to describe like what Facebook is. And it actually grossed out my oldest daughter, Facebook and social media, because she was like, what's the fascination with it? I'm like, well, you become the product for people to sell you things.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, that's weird. Why would I want to be on it? I'm like, yeah, for sure. Now it doesn't matter. So anyways, that's how, I think just at the end of the day, if you have kids, not engaging them and their curiosity about how things work, or even if they're not curious, but stoking the conversations, asking them, too many people are just like, here's the device. I'm going to go over here and veg out and whatever.
I hate this because I'm as guilty as anybody else. I take my kids to their volleyball or their karate or whatever. Back in the day, we used to do it. My kids have not settled on their one thing yet, so we're all over the place.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's such a hypocrite when I'm like, "Hey, kid, you're on your phone for 10 hours. What are you doing?" Well, I look at my stats and it's probably more than 10 hours, right? But I try to argue. I'm doing things, I'm posting content, I'm reacting things, I'm working, but I'm making assumptions that they're not. Now, with my daughter specifically, she spends a lot of time watching YouTube shorts. So when I ask her, hey, what you watching? Oh, YouTube shorts. I'm like, no, that's not what you're watching. You're watching something. I try to drill down and be more specific around the content. Also, I suggest to her, I mean, like, you're 14, you say you want to do some stuff in life. Well, YouTube, and just like we're talking about AI, these are tools. You could learn more about marine biology. You could learn more about a business you could start as a teenager, right? There's these tools and how we use them. I think that is, get off my soapbox in a minute here, in a second. Like, we've been given this tool, but no one's told. It's like The Greatest American Hero. Do you remember that TV show?
Guy sounds
a bit older than you, right?
Yeah.
But Ralph Hinckley, this teacher, finds this superhero outfit, but doesn't get the instruction book. Got this thing that can let you do anything, without having good instruction. You're just going to end up flying the wrong way and running into the walls and doing collateral damage.
Oh, interesting.
And I'll equate this to, like, we think about email. We were given a manual on how to use email, and look at our peers and their inboxes.
Yeah.
We've got to, all of us as technologists, I think we have a responsibility, because so many parents aren't, to work together to all of us better understand how we can be better users of technology instead of what it's doing right now. And to your point about us being the product from Facebook, about it using us.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a kind of contradictory thing, right, Mike, is if we go, let's say you go on whatever platform it is, LinkedIn, X, Facebook, YouTube, and you just like, all right, I'm going to blow 10 minutes just to empty, kind of veg out. But those places, if you're really building stuff, kind of to the Anthony Kiedis reference you made from Chili Peppers, if you really stop and think about it, you're like, the people who are posting a lot, now you can efficiently post, that's one thing, but then there's people who are like all day on those platforms. And you're like, how? What are you doing? Like, you just only have so much time in the day. And I find that if I'm on any of that stuff too long, it's actually not motivating a lot of the time. Sometimes it is. I mean, there's many good channels on YouTube or podcasts, of course, listening to that. But if you just get plugged in, maybe this to your, speaking your daughter's case, right? Is like, if you get plugged into the wrong content, it's not going to do anything but like bleed your brain of productivity. And then what are you left with? You're just, you can get in a depressive state too pretty quick.
And the way that those systems work, they just feed you more of what you're already engaged in. So it's not like they even try to break you away from, hey, it'd be awesome, YouTube build this or somebody build this. My kid's on YouTube for 30 minutes watching whatever they're watching, Minecraft, Dumb Ways to Die or whatever it is. And then every half hour interject, hey, Minecraft can help, like just something a little bit more positive, more constructive, right? Versus just passive consumerism.
Well, I'm sure you heard this about the TikTok algorithm at one point, but it was like in China, they were promoting people doing, creative productive stuff. And here it's like brain drain.
Yeah.
It's so like asymmetrical warfare thing. But
with my TikTok, I mean, I'm getting all of the things. Hey, go sell stuff on TikTok. Hey, go sell stuff on TikTok. I'm like, or the content like, hey, here's the latest TikTok trend, or TikTok wants you to know this, or here's this thing. Like, it's all about feeding. A lot of it's feeding machine versus actually like producing something worthwhile.
Well, I was just kind of griping about this on X because X is, I had to quit this strange. Yeah, it's just a strange platform because I'm like, I get it. There's ways to, because I'm building products and I'm always thinking about distribution. Like, I know TikTok, like so many people swear by TikTok and I have accounts for it and I'm just so reluctant to get on it. Maybe that's my detriment, but there's my feed is just filled with people who are like, oh, I built this thing, in 4 hours and launched it. And now I'm making X, and they'll put a, screenshot of some dashboard, but they never say what their app is. I'm like, how many just con artists are there out here?
Oh, I mean, well, and this is what I love talking about the internet and what we talked about with things for our kids, things for whatever it is. Like, I would argue the internet has not made anything new. It's the same scams. It's the same predators. It's the same thing that existed in the wider world before the internet. The internet has just made everything more hyper because now it's more accessible. And there's the anonymous portion of the internet, I think, has made things a little bit more disgusting.
Like, especially dark web action stuff.
They're just so I was streaming doing Minecraft stuff. I'm playing Minecraft, right? That's one of the things. Like, I know there's young kids there, but I don't know who's the young kid.
Right.
I said, we're not talking about, if you talk about ages or you talk about gender on the stream, you're getting put in a timeout because you can't tell. Just everyone, you're a stranger. We are strangers on the internet, even though we've had this conversation, right?
I remember playing like Counter-Strike. You ever play that?
No, I played Call of Duty was kind of what.
Yeah, Counter-Strike was like a big LAN game in like 2000. But yeah, and then Call of Duty and
I was the LANs I played was Quake back in the day in my 90 alphas.
Yeah. But I remember playing those games then. It was one of the first times I remember you get like an IP, address. Like, go join this server. So you go into like their console in the game and type that in and join it. And it was so early in gaming that they didn't have any real, like, you couldn't mute someone, you couldn't boot someone. Maybe you could boot someone, but you couldn't mute them. So, especially in those games, I'm sure you've heard this, or some kid with a really high pitched voice comes on and just like starts blasting you because you're not doing very well or whatever the case is. And you're like, how old is this kid? Like 7? And he's just like ripping into me because, you know,
That's why I Call of Duty, because I couldn't beat the 12-year-olds.
yeah, right. Yeah, the game's like too good. I'm like, I just I had to shelf all that now. Anyways, yeah, but that's the anonymized world is for sure pretty wild. It's my oldest daughter is interesting. They're visiting family, and one of their like friends, you know, she's on her phone like a lot, you know, watches, you know, it's like 13, and you know, it's on TikTok makeup channels and all this kind of stuff. And she, my daughter was like, couldn't, you know, calling her out a bit. It's like, why are you on your phone so much? We're here, we're visiting. And I love that she was aware of it, but also I'm like, I don't know what you're going to accomplish, you know? And of course you got told to kick rocks basically at some point. So like, you just keep to yourself, you know, what you believe and what your habits are. And, you know, but
Well, we could talk forever, Preston, and I'm pretty sure that you and I could go down too many rabbit holes. I do want to be kind of respectful of your time. Psalm log. Let's kind of end here, right?
yeah.
Psalm log. Who's it for? How do they find it? And where are you at with like the build of it and what's coming next for you in Psalm log?
Yeah, good questions. So who's it for? I think anyone who finds themselves wanting to get personalized biblical advice and do it at a moment's notice. You go in there, you can start a free 2-week trial, and you talk for 45 seconds. And
Like actually talk or type, or is it use state or
talk? It's voice for.
Oh, she's nice. Very cool.
There's not even a typing option. That's part of the beauty of it to me is you just go talk, and once you save your entry, within like 30 seconds, you're gonna get back like a robust journal entry. It's pretty crazy. It wowed me the first time I did it when I built the proof of concept. I'm like, this is really cool. But you can and you can find it on Play Store, Google Play Store, Apple, of course. You know, right now it's really centered around just building the habit of like, hey, like I have consistent journal entries. I have all this other stuff planned for us. So I'll tell you a couple of things. One is the ability to generate an audible version of your journal entry. So if you want to basically, let's say I'm not endorsing you your phone while driving, but let's say you talk and then you hop into your car and you get your journal entry back, you'd be able to tap, a notification or something and just have it read the whole thing to you.
So similar maybe to what Notebook LM does, with where you can take a source bit of content and maybe makes a podcasty version of.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like a 2-person podcast, but it would be someone, reading a friendly version of your podcast back to you. Another one is that I have done like proof of concept stuff in development, is to get weekly recaps and active guidance on key verses to hone in on that you can actually, check off. And it's encouraging memorization. That's a really important thing to do. And then things that you can be like cognizant of as you go throughout your week based on what you've been journaling.
So maybe the more reflective part of that after the fact. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, but it's like, okay, let's say I did 4 journal entries in the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Well, so it would basically take that all and give you a sort of game plan for the next week of, here are the things that seem to be most important to you, and here's how you can keep biblical scripture in mind as you're navigating your week, like practical advice that maybe someone might give you based on what you're talking about. So And then, and of course, there's like the long-term vision of it to give you like more stats and stuff like that. But I don't want to just keep it to stats. I mean, numbers are one thing, sure, but it's like what's sort of the evolution of you over time, from that component. So, but yeah, those are a couple things that are kind of in the pipeline. It just depends on how quickly I can justify making those, more or less. So, yeah.
Well, and as a designer, builder, and you've mentioned social media, you're on X and some other things. How do you want people to follow you or connect with you? Or
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm personally, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's where I'm most active. I would just go there. If you're on Instagram, also, I have a pretty robust account there as well. And then, yeah, I think those are the two best places. And if you want to learn about other products that my company's building, go to zellerhaus.com.
And it's ZELLERHAUS.
Yeah, correct. So like I'm just launching another product that helps you do competitive intel for launching mobile apps and optimizing your mobile apps. So that's kind of another one coming out here too. But yeah, I mean, I think in general, like one of the things I'm trying to do more of at some point, Mike, is just public speaking about different topics as well. So, but we'll get there.
Well, one of the things I'll follow up with you after this, but we'd love to talk to you just about, like, we didn't get into it much here, but the actual, like, how do you take an idea and turn it into an actual product in the App Store? That would definitely be a meaningful conversation that you and I could follow up with at some point in time. I think would be worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, one thing I'll say there too is like, this is back to the people who oversimplify everything. I'm like, it's not, I think, difficult to simplify, build this, make X amount of money. Like anyone could just say that. But the amount of things I've had to learn and continue to learn is insane. I wrote this whole list out that was just like, especially in the solopreneur mode, if you have a whole team of specialists, that's great. That's also very expensive. Most people don't have that access. So you have to be so stinking resourceful and just be okay with that. Like, that's the more resourceful you can be and get really good at that, and you can do incredible things. Yeah.
So is there anything else, Preston, that you want that we missed or that you might want to bring up here as we close?
Yeah, I mean, I would just encourage people, if they can, like, go try out Solomlog if it's something you would like to do. And then of course Zeller Haus if you want to see what else we're offering. But I think it's just in general knowing that I'm trying to honor God in everything I'm doing and build products that are meaningful and have meaningful impact. So and that's kind of it for me. And then be a good father and husband.
I mean, kids out there, that's really all that there is. You're going to go through a whole bunch of life wandering and searching, and you'll probably come to this point. At the end of the day, it's your relationship with God and whatever friends and family that you hold dear. So
yeah, and don't take it for granted either.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Preston Zeller, founder of Solomlog and doer of all kinds of cool things. I truly appreciate your time. Thank you. And those of you out there watching, thank you for checking out the Make It Happen. And we will continue to tell the cool story of people doing cool things here in Northwest Ohio and beyond. Awesome. Take care, everybody.